what happens when when the separate sense of self drops away, so to speak. And every experience, of course, could be unique. But I want to point out a couple of things that actually very obvious. That number one, that there was never a separate sense of self with the story past, present, and future. There is no continuum. There is no chatter. There is no commenting on every action that is taking place or everything you do. There is simply what is arising, and it's always fresh and new. Another thing, it's not a big event. It's not an event that is extraordinary. It's not an event. Okay, let's put it this way. More and more you realize, again, I'm going to go back to my first point, that there was never a separate sense of self. It was a belief. It was a contracted energy. It was, so to speak, a belief in Santa Claus that never existed. So that in itself, kind of like anxious experience, is no longer there. However, certain feelings, sensations could also arise. It really, you stop living in a place of chasing the good feeling experience and running away from the bad feeling experiences. There is no chase. There is no chase for pleasure necessarily. And to be honest with you, pleasure happens. And I would say more pleasure happens, if you will. But it's not, again, it's not extraordinary. It's not something that needs, the story like needs to bring cupcakes and rainbows and angels and for you to experience this. None of that. So quite ordinary. Realization also that the separation was never there. And number three, I want to talk today specifically about this. The realization is just so obvious that there's no separation. It's hard to put the words, but everything is just like, it's a fluidity. It's an apparent movement of happening, of experiences. It's a dance. Includes the dance partners, let's say, the music, the space where the dance is taking place, the vibe of the dance. It's so hard to explain it logically. That's the best I could do. It's everything. It's immediate. It's an instant. It's not separate. It's not, obviously there's still understanding of appearances of being separate and being respectful of other people's space. And so don't seek that there should be some sort of a new vision of non-separateness, or the things look from a physical perspective like they looked before. But the shift is so tremendous that you have these new lenses that you look through them, and there is this understanding of unity, but there's nobody to understand unity. It just is. And don't search for anything that you read about. Maybe you read a lot of books, and I've done the same thing. Don't have expectation of what even the apparent falling away of separate identity would look like, or immediately something will shift. Yes, you gonna feel and sense the shift, but there is also, I would say, a little bit of apparent establishment process that takes a little bit of time for your body to catch up, for your nervous system to catch up. And all of that is amazing. There's nobody doing anything. It's not like there is a you that say, and if I meditate enough, I plan to awaken, or maybe you've been told if you meditate for another 20 years, you'll awaken. uh, it just happens. Okay. And I do believe it's a beautiful gift because it happens on its own. Nobody's doing anything for it to happen. Yes, there could be apparent some events that seem like they led you to awakening. But in reality, it's not truth. It can happen to anyone. And don't feel like you have to put yourself in a certain category. Again, the separate self does that. I would add another bonus point here is that there is a sense of relief in general. There's no overthinking. There's no worrying much because there is no identification with a separate self that needs to do something in order to save the situation. And if action arises in urgent situations or situations where important action needs to be taken in any shape and form, it just arises on its own. I would also like to add this. I guess I'm going to my point number 5. I would like to add this, and this is important. There's the expectation that after awakening, you are a certain way, or like you always flowy, nice, and kind. And let me just say, your personality traits will stay there, and some of them will change either drastically or not. But one thing I will say, you don't have this idea how you should be. And if anything, if life wants you to deal with situations, you actually could be more stern, more firm, instill the boundaries when needed, and speak differently from a different space, from a different energy, more confident, more in a place of unshakable and being unbreakable. And then it's powerful. I believe that's the true power. True power is not gained. True power is relieved when what no longer serves you falls away. And the realization that you've never been that, it's been a mask, an illusion, covering up what's always been there, which is freedom. And that freedom can act in any way. And when you're free, when you're not limiting yourself, oh, I have to be this certain way to deal with this situation, that's a limitation, of course. I have to get this done. If I don't get this done, I have to be in control because me is all about sense of control. Well, we've all seen how that usually ends up. But when that freedom is revealing itself to itself, so to speak, then it doesn't have limitations to act in a proper way. And it could be in a stern way, in a kind way. There is no more pleasing anything or anyone. It's just what arises is fully allowed. And that is beautiful. That is something that really amazes me. I hope this serves you well today. If you have any questions, if any topics you want me to cover, please let me know in the comments and I'll speak to you.